Well, this is for my reward center peeps represent. When I say reward center peeps, I'm being an idiot, but I mean people who have the same issue I do, which is that the reward center of their brain gets depleted really quickly and you're constantly searching for dopamine. I need a t-shirt that says, I'm here for the dopamine. People I'm talking about are ones who are quite driven to anything. It might be the kids who watch the YouTube over and over again and just need to be stimulated. It's the people who can't be bored. Their brain needs to be engaged in something. It's the people who sometimes look really unemotional because they're so focused on whatever it is they want to do that they look like they don't care if they hurt people around them. It's also the kids that have to constantly get validation for what they're doing. You know, a lot of parents think they're rejection sensitive because they won't do things by themselves. But really, the reason they want someone around them is because someone's got to see them achieving. They get their dopamine from people noticing that they've achieved things. Like every ADHDer is a bit of a dopamine junkie to some extent. But the reward center brain people, we're ones who probably associate or identify as having reward deficiency syndrome. And that means dopamine bounces in our brain and bounces right out again. And we just need more constantly. So like I can't manage ever being bored. I have to be engaged. I have to have something to think about, to do, to occupy my brain with. And if I don't have that, I'll just control everybody around me. That's just what I do. And that's what these kids do. Certainly in children, they look overly controlling. They look really full on. They are exhausting to the poor parents. Often people tell them to put restrictions on devices, and because they're constantly on the device, because they can't not be on the device, they must be engaged, and they're not interested in normal life. They want to just be stimulated in their brain. And when they turn the devices off, some parents are met with massive violence and aggression. I've seen some really sad stories from families really torn apart from this child being totally unable to manage not having that. Now, they are legitimately totally unable. I actually don't support a lot of the restrictions being put on devices in those situations. I understand content restrictions. I understand some children shouldn't be exposed to some of the content in some of the games and YouTube, and I totally respect parents making decisions there. But we can't take away a source of dopamine and not replace it with another source of dopamine. So if we're going to want children to not be on devices, we need to give them another way for their brains to be stimulated, because they cannot manage without it. And I'm really serious about that. Like, it's all good and well to say a child shouldn't spend this much time on their iPad, or they shouldn't spend this much time watching YouTube. Fair enough. I set whatever limits you want. You're the mum or the dad. But give them something else for their brain if you expect them not to be on that. I suggest to parents, find other dopamine sources. You need to be dopamine hunters. You need to be thinking, and it needs to be something that would actually be dopamine giving enough to get a child off something like a computer. So it can't be like, go and play sports with your friends. A, they probably don't want to play with friends, and B, that's if that doesn't give them dopamine, it's not going to matter. Most of these kids will be addicted to any dopamine source they have, whether it be food for some, it could be gaming, it could be arguing with people, it could be a YouTube clip or a song or doing a certain drawing, but it's this ongoing need to stimulate their brain and an inability to be bored. And they're not driven by wanting others to like them, they're driven by wanting others to notice their achievements. That's what drives